I remember the way Daniel looked at me across the kitchen island that morning, like I was a cracked vase he'd stopped trying to glue back together. Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. Clara, these corporate trips aren't your thing, he said, pouring almond milk into his smoothie like we weren't having the same conversation we'd had every year. It's not personal. It's just business. Not personal, but... He wore the same navy suit he did whenever he had something to prove. His cologne hit my nose before he even stepped into the room. Expensive, cold. Like him. It's in Lisbon this year, I said, trying to keep my voice light. You've always said how beautiful it is. Wouldn't it be nice to go together? Daniel paused, his hand hovering over the blender. Clara, you'd feel out of place. These trips are all CEOs and polished spouses who know how to network. The words cut sharper than I let on. And I don't. He didn't answer. He just blended his kale smoothie like he was too busy to talk. Like I was the one being difficult. Truthfully, I wasn't surprised. Daniel hadn't brought me on one of his corporate retreats in 4 years. First, it was because I was pregnant. Then it was because our daughter was too young. Then it was because the company was in transition, and family optics mattered. But now our daughter was in school, and I was being benched again for what? I knew the answer. I just couldn't admit it yet. That afternoon, I found a printed itinerary shoved into his briefcase while putting away his dry cleaning. I wasn't snooping, I never did. But the paper fell out by accident, and curiosity gripped me. Lisbon. 4 nights at a 5-star hotel. Company gala on Saturday. Welcome reception Friday. +1 encouraged. Encouraged. The word burned in my throat. Encouraged. So why not me? I tucked the paper back where I found it and said nothing. That night, Daniel kissed me on the forehead before bed and told me not to overthink. Next year, he promised, like he was granting me a favor. But I'd stopped believing in next year's a long time ago. 3 nights before his flight, I opened my laptop and typed, "Flights to Lisbon." I didn't know what I was looking for exactly. Closure. Proof. But the idea wouldn't leave me alone. By midnight I had booked a one-way ticket. No hotel yet. No plan. Just a flight. And a quiet determination to see for myself what this trip was really about. I told my sister I'd be out of town for a few days and arranged for my daughter to stay with her. No questions asked. Monica had always suspected Daniel wasn't the saint he pretended to be. She looked at me as I packed like she wanted to say something, but she didn't. Daniel left 2 days later, whistling as he wheeled his suitcase out the door. I kissed him goodbye with the same lips he'd kissed for over a decade. He didn't look back. I arrived in Lisbon the next morning. I took a cab from the airport straight to the hotel, one of those luxury chains with glossy marble floors, gold elevators, and staff that pretended not to notice anything. I wore sunglasses and a long beige trench coat. Maybe it was cliché, but I felt safer that way. At the front desk, I asked casually if I could speak with the concierge. Said I was meeting someone and wanted to confirm their room number. I gave Daniel's full name. The concierge hesitated, then leaned in and whispered, "Room 1102. "Thank you," I replied, smiling like I belonged here. I didn't go up. Not yet. Instead, I went to the hotel cafe and sat near the elevators, sipping espresso and watching. For 2 hours, I saw executives in expensive suits come and go, laughing, talking, clearly part of the conference crowd. Then, just before noon, I saw him. Daniel. He wasn't alone. He walked beside a tall woman in a sleek red dress, laughing like nothing in the world could go wrong. They were close. Too close. She touched his arm at the elevator. He didn't move it away. They disappeared upstairs. My chest felt like it was full of rocks. I sat there, frozen, every muscle in my body screaming. The receipt. Later that afternoon, I managed to befriend a young housekeeper outside the elevator. I told her I'd lost my friend's room number and asked for a favor. Slipped her a €100 bill. Minutes later, she came back with a crumpled room service receipt she said had been left behind in 1102's bin. It was dated that morning. Room service for two, it read. Champagne. Strawberries. Breakfast for two. And the names. Daniel Miller and Celeste Moreno. Celeste. That name didn't just hurt. Crack something wide open. She was one of his newer colleagues. Fresh from the marketing department. I'd seen her name on a few emails. She wasn't just new. She was married. With a husband. And 2 kids. And Daniel. Daniel had told me not to come because I would embarrass him. The irony made me nauseous. I didn't cry. Not there. Not yet. Instead, I made a new plan. The gala dinner was tomorrow. The room was booked. The guest list was final. And I was going to be there. Not just to confront him. Not just to scream or cry or beg. Well, I was going to let everyone else see the kind of man he really was. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of the jet lag, not even because of what I saw, but because something in me had shifted. Something cold and sharp had settled beneath my ribs. I wasn't going to beg him to explain. I wasn't going to give him the power to lie to my face. I was done being polite. Instead, I did something he would never expect from someone he thought was too timid to mingle. I bought a dress. Not just any dress. One that stopped conversation. It was black. Satin. Tailored so perfectly to my body, I almost didn't recognize myself in the mirror. For a moment, I forgot about the years he made me feel plain, invisible. I looked like someone who didn't apologize for taking up space. And tomorrow, I'd make sure he'd never forget it. The gala was hosted at the same hotel. Grand Ballroom, 4th floor. I walked in early, blending in with the caterers and decorators. I kept my movements sharp, my eyes alert. At the reception table, a young woman with a clipboard glanced up. "Name, please." I smiled sweetly and said, "Clara Miller. +1 to Daniel Miller." She hesitated, looked down the list. Her eyebrows twitched. "We already have a +1 listed under Mr. Miller." "I know," I said, leaning forward. "That's why I'm here." The pause was long, but I didn't blink. Eventually, she offered a tight smile. "Enjoy your evening, Mrs. Miller." And just like that, I was in. The ballroom was bathed in gold light. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Waiters weaved between tables with trays of champagne. Everyone looked like they belonged on a magazine cover. And then I saw them. Daniel. And her. Celeste was in red again, just like the elevator. Like a bloodstain that never washed out. They were laughing with a group of executives, standing near the back wall by the branded step and repeat. Her hand lingered too long on his shoulder. He said something that made her throw her head back in laughter. I didn't walk over. Not yet. I let him see me first. I stood near the entrance, right under the chandelier, drink in hand. My dress shimmered as I slowly turned toward them. I saw it happen. First confusion, then panic. His face blanched. He touched Celeste's arm, too tight, and whispered something in her ear. She looked toward me, startled. Like she'd seen a ghost. I held his gaze. And smiled. It was the first time in years I saw Daniel flinch. I didn't approach. I let the discomfort grow like a slow burn. I floated around the ballroom like a ghost with perfect posture, speaking to strangers, charming execs who thought I was someone important. A few even asked if I worked in PR. "No," I said every time. "Just here with Daniel Miller." That name was currency. People recognized it. I was no longer a shadow behind him. Tonight I was the storm. At one point, I accidentally ran into his company's regional director, Jonathan Bryce. I remembered him from one of Daniel's dinner parties years ago. He was sharp, had a daughter Clara's age. "Clara," he said, surprised. I didn't know you were here. I leaned in. Neither did Daniel. Jonathan blinked. Well, it's good to see you. You look incredible. Thanks. Say, do you know Celeste Moreno? I think she works under Daniel now. His eyes shifted. I've heard of her. Marketing. I didn't know she was here with him. Oh, they're quite close, I said, sipping my champagne. Shared room service breakfast this morning, actually. He laughed awkwardly, then saw I wasn't joking. He stopped. Clara. Don't worry, I said, waving it off. Just enjoy the evening. But do me a favor, keep your eyes open. I saw something change in him. Respect. Maybe pity. I didn't care which. Near the end of the evening, the MC took the stage and called up a few executives to speak about the company's next phase of expansion. Daniel was among them. He walked to the mic stiffly, like he knew every eye was on him. His speech was polished, predictable, all strategy and market potential, until he froze. Someone was approaching the stage. Me. I hope I'm not interrupting, I said into a separate microphone, standing at the edge of the platform in front of 200 people. The room went quiet. Daniel's jaw clenched. Clara, what are you doing? I turned to the audience. Forgive me. I just wanted to clarify something about a project that Daniel presented earlier. Specifically, the team behind the Lisbon campaign, the one you just heard about. He stepped forward. Clara, stop. But I already had the clicker. I turned to the projector. Slide 1. The campaign presentation Daniel had taken credit for. Slide 2. The original document. Metadata showing my name as the author. Slide 3. Emails forwarded from his account to Celeste. Her responding flirtations. And finally, slide 4. The hotel room service receipt. Clear. Unmistakable. Signed, Daniel Miller and Celeste Moreno. Silence. Then murmurs. Jonathan Bryce stood. Several board members looked horrified. Daniel's voice cracked. You have no idea what you're doing. No, Daniel, I said, voice like ice. You're the one who forgot who you married. And then I walked off the stage. The storm after silence. He chased me out into the hall, voice hushed and desperate. What the hell are you trying to prove? You ruined everything. I turned to him. For the first time in years, I looked at him and felt nothing but clarity. You did that all on your own. He grabbed my wrist. Clara, please. Security was already approaching. I didn't have to say a word. I simply raised an eyebrow. He let go and watched me walk away. I didn't cry. Not that night. Not on the ride back to the hotel. Not as I kicked off my heels and peeled off the dress that had silenced a room of executives. I felt empty, but in the cleanest way possible. Like someone had scrubbed me raw. My body was sore, my heart quiet. Not calm. Just quiet. I ordered tea. Sat by the window. And watched the Lisbon skyline burn gold under the streetlights. I had no idea what would happen next. I just knew that, for the first time in years, I didn't feel powerless. It didn't take long. By morning, the photos were already circulating. Some guest had filmed my interruption on stage. The clip hit LinkedIn, then WhatsApp groups, then an anonymous leak to a business gossip blog. Corporate wife hijacks gala presentation, reveals CEO's affair and stolen campaign. I woke up to a message from Monica, my sister. Clara, you went viral. Also, I'm so proud of you. Call me when you're ready. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I opened my email. There was one from Daniel. Subject, please. Body, what have you done? I'm being questioned by the board. Char wants statements. You don't understand what you've unleashed. Call me. He signed it D. Like we were still on good terms. Like that erased what he'd done. Closed the laptop. Then I turned off my phone. Over the next 48 hours, everything moved fast. Celeste tried to delete her social media, but screenshots lived forever. Executives whispered about the Lisbon incident. Some quietly congratulated me. Others didn't say anything, but I saw the way they looked at me. Not with shame, with respect. Jonathan Bryce reached out via a handwritten note slipped under my hotel room door. You don't know how many people needed to see what you did. Some of us have been silent for too long. Whatever happens, I hope you know. None of this was in vain. Cried then, because someone finally saw the full picture. Not just the betrayal, but the years leading up to it. I flew home 3 days later. Daniel didn't. He couldn't. I later learned that he was called into an emergency board session within 24 hours of my presentation. A full investigation was launched into his ethics, misuse of company credit for personal expenses, and plagiarism of intellectual property. It didn't help that the Lisbon campaign he claimed credit for was technically mine. I had drafted the original outline on my personal laptop months ago, back when he told me he needed creative inspiration, and I had the timestamps to prove it. The board didn't like scandals, especially ones with receipts, literally and figuratively. Daniel was suspended pending review, then officially fired. Not resigned. Fired. A polite press release tried to spin it. Daniel Miller will be departing the company to pursue new opportunities. But everyone knew what really happened, especially Celeste. She too was asked to leave. When Daniel returned to our house, I was already gone. I'd moved into Monica's guest room with our daughter. I hadn't told her anything, not in detail, just that mommy needed a break. That daddy would visit her soon. Daniel stood at the door of Monica's house that Sunday. Ill, sunken, eyes ringed with regret he hadn't earned. I lost everything, he said. He nodded. So did I. You just never noticed. He looked at me like he wanted to rewind time. Clara, can we fix this? No, I said simply. He had underestimated me for too long. And now? He finally saw the version of me he never imagined. The one who didn't need his approval to speak or his permission to exist. 2 weeks later, I got an email from someone I didn't recognize. Subject: Business Opportunity. From Elise Watanabe, Senior VP, Morello and James PR Group. She had seen the Lisbon clip. She wanted to meet, not just out of curiosity, but because the firm needed someone to help launch a female-led campaign focused on integrity in corporate leadership. Your voice is exactly what this industry is missing, she wrote. If you're interested, let's talk. I met her for coffee, and then again for a formal interview. They offered me a consulting contract. It was more money than I'd ever made on my own. Said yes. People often ask if I regret it. The public exposure. The scandal. The way I didn't handle it quietly. But here's the thing. Silence would have cost me more. It already had. Cost me years of self-worth. Of shrinking myself to fit into someone else's spotlight. Of watching him twist the narrative while I smiled through gritted teeth. He said I'd embarrass him on his business trip. And maybe I did. But what he never expected, what none of them expected, was that I would stop apologizing for the truth. That I'd stop protecting the man who broke me. That I'd become the kind of woman who walks into a ballroom and makes the whole room stop. Not because of what she wears, but because of what she's finally willing to say. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.